It is about 1:39 here. I'm WCIA3 meteorologist Jacob Dickey. Wanted to give you an update here on the chance for some of these strong to severe storms to push through the area here. We've got another update live with this trailing line of storms now that has got a warning. Mainly right now it's Iroquois County that we're watching, but still some development in other spots here in central Illinois. And so we'll be keeping a close eye on things here for you. For probably another couple, maybe an hour or so. But what I do expect then is after this line moves on through, we get a break, and then the chance will be there for perhaps a few more strong to severe storms later on this afternoon into the evening hours. Let's talk first off here what we're seeing in our region. First off, there's Ford, there's Iroquois, Livingston counties here. The area that we're most concerned about, that we're watching the most right now, is up here in Iroquois County. And as we check that out here, you'll see that there's this yellow line around that box there. This warning's in effect for 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts with this storm here between Kankakee down towards Ashcombe now. The leading edge of that warned storm now right along Interstate 57 carrying off to the east. Moving at a pretty good clip too. This storm moving east at about 55 miles an hour with a slight southward jog. More development than further to the south and west from, say, Clifton, you go Ashcombe, Danforth, Gilman, Onarga. We cut back towards Piper City and then developing cells down towards Sibley, Colfax, and Saybrook. Those particular storms not warned. The strongest storms are right here in this area as we look off to the north and to the west. And so that's certainly something that we're going to watch. We just got a new severe thunderstorm warning there, actually, that includes that area. And so that's something we're going to watch. Let's hit the reset button here, talk about that. This warning now for Ford and Iroquois County fills in the gaps from Gibson City up towards the Roberts area, Melvin, and Sibley. It's going to include Paxton. It'll be all of Iroquois County now. And that's for this particular storm as it slides off to the south and east. Now you can see that warning there is for 60-mile-per-hour winds and quarter-size hail in this storm here just to the north and west of Gibson City, carrying off to the north and east. That leading edge of storms now moving to the south and east here at about 55 miles an hour. I'm going to go back and check and make sure we're seeing that here. So far today, storms have had quite the punch with them in parts of northern Illinois. 80-mile-an-hour winds between Kankakee up towards Peotone. Those areas have seemed to have the strongest of the winds so far in our area. This is a look at our Skycam right now, our Skycam from Gibson City loading, and we are seeing now the storm from our Gibson City camera off to the north and to the west. I don't have any immediate concerns at this point for a tornado with this storm, but it's still going to be something that we watch closely here. This mainly just the wind threat coming on through as we are continuing to see these storms move to the south and east. From the National Weather Service, this warning for the Ford, Iroquois, and sliver of Livingston County is going to go until 2:45. That storm moving southeast, a little slower on the tail end there. They've got it at 35 miles an hour from near Piper City down towards Gibson City. That's what we see on the camera there as we continue to watch and keep an eye on this storm. A lot of areas not seeing much right now. That still seems to be the case for us here in the region and will likely be so for a little while longer. Just the areas north of I-74, which have had that greatest threat for severe weather today, which is why we're keeping an eye on things here. One thing to note, see these orange boxes with the pink outlines? Those there are actually severe thunderstorm warnings for 80-mile-per-hour winds. They're from Kankakee up into the Chicago metro. So we're going to watch and check that out here and take a look across the region and do a little bit of radar analysis for you here on our digital platforms. Champaign, Decatur, Springfield, nothing in our neck of the woods, and there may not be for a little while here, but we're still going to watch this closely. Storms in areas north of I-74 now. Severe thunderstorm warning for Iroquois and Ford counties, and a small sliver of Livingston County, areas south and east of Forest. That going to go until 2:45. Time now, 1:43 here. And so we'll watch it here. Go ahead and loop that for you, show you what these storms have been doing. Okay, that's not quite what I was hoping we'd do. Let me back that one up real quick, and we'll rezoom in on that and see if we can't get that to maybe just focus on these areas here. So again, there's that line of storms. Gibson City sits right here. That camera's looking at this tail-end cell. I don't see anything in there, and I'll take a look at our different radars here. I don't see anything that makes me immediately concerned for wind gusts stronger than 60 miles per hour here. There's a little bit in there. That's looking at our Lincoln radar. I want to look at the Chicago radar also. And that Chicago radar gives us another view. We're in kind of the middle territory. There'll be some strong downburst winds in here, 50 to 60 miles per hour. Notice the colors up here, and I'll just pull it a little further to the north. Look at all of those colors in here. See those pinks and yellows? That's the 60 to 70 to 80 mile per hour winds now in Kankakee County, moving off to the east into Indiana. That has missed us, and that's good news here for now. We'll continue to watch that and keep a close eye on those storms. But we're on the tail end now here in our region as we continue to monitor these storms. Do want to mention severe thunderstorm watch in effect, Livingston, Ford, and Iroquois counties. That's going to go until 4 o'clock today. What about counties further to the south and west here? Springfield, Decatur, Champaign-Urbana, down towards Taylorville, Mattoon, Charleston, Effingham. Do we get storms in our area? We'll get the chance for some storms here later. At this point, does not appear to be imminent for the next hour or two, but I suspect that we get more development in these regions that are not under the watch. This is the first watch of the day, and is something that we'll continue to keep a close eye on here in the region as we watch and monitor things for us in central Illinois. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the reset button, and if you have a comment or a report, many of us are quiet here, and that's okay. We are mainly watching in, again, Iroquois, Ford, and a sliver of Livingston County, where those storms are moving on through. And you'll see here, as I get the camera brought up full screen for you, there we go. Let me click a button here and make some magic happen. I want that camera back to the weather key real quick. Sometimes it takes me a minute to press around and find the right one. There's that. And then I want to do number 8 is going to be cam 2. Okay, so there's the warnings for Ford, Iroquois, Livingston County, mainly for 60 mile per hour wind gusts with this line on here, and we'll be watching that very closely. Let's talk real quick about what to expect through the day today. The latest from the Storm Prediction Center has much of our area in the slight risk for severe weather. The greatest threat is from Champaign-Urbana northward towards Chicago, where we've got that level 3 risk for storms, and that's what we'll continue to expect to see, the stronger intensity storms. Still some questions here. We'll expect some development west of Bloomington, north of Lincoln, and that may be where we have the chance for some of these severe storms to sneak more to the south and east. And so certainly we will watch and keep a close eye on that here. I still think, much like to the north up by Kankakee, they got some 80-mile-an-hour winds up there and getting some reports of some damage. That would be the greatest threat here. We may get some 60 to 75-mile-per-hour gusts in a few spots. I don't think it's a widespread problem, but it takes only 1 or 2 towns getting some of that strong wind to cause some problems out there. Power outages, trees down, and certainly some significant wind damage to trees and power lines possible in a few isolated corridors here in the region. You know, the wind threat a little heightened today because we have so much instability here in the region. And so that's what we'll continue to watch. We're going to call this threat for area-wide. The wind threat possible as far south as I-70. I think the chance lesser down there. The greatest threat really is where we're seeing those storms right now in Iroquois, Ford, Livingston, McLean counties also, and then over into Benton County, Indiana, even into Champaign and Vermilion County. We'll have to watch here as those storms move to the south and the east. Tornado risk, 2 out of 10. Keeping an eye on that. So it can't be ruled out as we watch these storms. That, again, I really think for the most part this does appear to be a straight line wind threat for us here in the region. Let's go ahead and bring back our radar and talk through some of these things here that we see. You'll see this line of storms now from about Sibley off towards Chatsworth, towards the Ashcombe area is what we're mainly watching at this point, with the chance for some 60, maybe up to 70 mile per hour gusts in northern Iroquois County, though it seems like the worst of the wind is in northern Illinois, where we've had a number of storms come through Kankakee and Peotone and Mantino and places like that with some strong winds. It doesn't look like much on Storm Tracker Doppler. Yeah, with some yellows and some oranges, and no big deal. But when we look at the velocity product tells us the direction and the speed that winds are moving. Your eyes are really drawn to these areas right here now in northwest Indiana, and there are some strong winds in there. That's the severe thunderstorm warning. Let me check the query for the radar. Velocity estimating there, 83-mile-an-hour winds. And I will clear that and see if I can't get that. It looks like it's not going to show up for me. That's okay. It's estimating in these bright oranges and yellows, 70 to 85 mile per hour winds now crossing into northwest Indiana out of the Kankakee County area. And then further down where we are, those colors not quite as bright here. The strongest of winds I think are going to be from Watseka to the north. That'd be towards Donovan, towards Watseka, Sheldon, far northeastern Iroquois County. Up here, right there's a little bar in the corner of the county. That's probably where the strongest winds will be. Further to the south and west then, I do see a line sticking out right here, and that line does catch my eye a little bit. That's the outflow boundary pushing out ahead of these storms, and that outflow boundary is evident on the Skycam from Gibson City, the camera. Oh, there goes Peter Carlson in front of the monitor there. It's because I got the key button on. Let me turn that off here real quick, and see if that fixes it. So hopefully no one else walks in front there. I've got the key pulled on and yada yada. Sometimes that happens. There you go. This is that shelf cloud, that leading edge of the wind here. At this point, it looks like those storms, they've arrived a little quicker than we thought here, but they don't look quite as impressive further down the line at this point. What I will say is the instability is a bit higher here in the region, and we'll have to watch and keep a close eye on that because there's plenty of it. That instability will be used for these showers and storms to continue to develop and move further to the south and to the west. This here, as I pull up the future track, let me pull future track and we'll see, should have gotten an update here recently, see how it's doing with the idea of these storms. So notice here, it's not bad with the placement. Starting to see this development a little earlier than expected, and that may be good news for our threat later. We had thought that, oh, we'll have storms later on, get that instability. This may help to temper that instability a little bit here. And as I look, you see here 9, 10 o'clock, I still see some storms firing up here in north central Illinois, but it really messes with the timing here. We're talking late tonight into the morning hours. Loud thunderstorms, lots of lightning, lots of thunder, but perhaps these early storms may help to lessen the threat for severe weather. I wasn't sure that was going to be the case. I'm becoming more confident that that may end up being what happens here into the region. We just got to watch this hour by hour and see how it plays out. I think regardless, plan on a night with loud thunder, lots of lightning, some heavy rain, but maybe the wind threat won't be quite as realized further to the south. Still, though, we've had confirmation of a lot of damaging winds here, LaSalle County eastward to Kankakee County, and some of those warnings do extend into our area down in Livingston, Ford, and Iroquois counties. Back to Storm Tracker Doppler here, and I'm going to try and stick it back full screen and keep an eye on that. Let's see if I got that to work right here. That is a look there at Storm Tracker Doppler. What we see is that we do have the severe weather threat continuing for Ford, Iroquois counties primarily, and that's what we're going to watch and monitor closely here. The areas that have those warnings go until 2:45 for 60 mile per hour winds. Northern Iroquois County has a chance at some 70 mile per hour gusts. The worst of the wind is in northwest Indiana at this point. And that's some good news for us where we don't have to worry too much about it and keep an eye on it there. But still, it's something we're going to watch very closely here for the next little bit. Okay, looks like my key isn't working as much as I wanted, but that's okay. We're still going to watch things here and keep a close eye on it for a little bit longer, and then I'll take a break and then come back on. If you have any reports in these areas that are seeing warnings as well, that would be appreciated as we continue to monitor that. And let me see, I think I fixed my button right there now. You'll see here that the warnings do continue for at least until 2:45 with what we're monitoring here in the region. So let me see if I can click my button there and make it work. Watching that Gibson City camera also, the wind now starting to sneak into town. I don't see anything that concerns me of widespread straight line wind damage at this point. We do know that there's going to be plenty of that instability to work with today as we watch these storms sneak off to the east and southeast, anywhere from about 35 to 50 miles an hour. That line of storms that had the strongest winds here, that's with these storms here, up in the south, the northwest part of Indiana, southeast side. That's where the worst wind has been here across the region, and is certainly what we're going to continue to monitor here closely as we watch. So, looking at it now, a line of warnings extends from There we go. Extends here from northwest Indiana. That trailing line here comes into northern parts of northern and northwestern Ford counties, southeastern Livingston counties, and will continue to do so here. We've got two different polygons that we're looking at. This one right here, the southern half of Livingston County, and the northern half of Ford County. That'd be the northern part of Ford County Panhandle, and then the main part of Ford County as well. That is primarily for some of those 60 to 65 mile an hour gusts, maybe. And you can see here's Gibson City, there's Paxton, Buckley, Loda, Gilman, Onarga, then Watseka. US 24 runs right here. Highway 54 comes this way. Route 9 goes that way east towards Paxton. Route 47 carries you to the north. We're going to watch all those areas closely here for the next little bit. It says this cell right here does catch my attention at least a little bit. We'll see if there's any wind with it. Don't see a whole lot at this point, but I do know that these storms have a lot of rising motion, and that can sometimes tap into that instability and bring that severe threat. Further up here towards Watseka, I bet Watseka now getting some strong wind gusts here. This red line is that outflow boundary. That's the wind that's blowing out ahead of the storm. I don't see it quite as much further to the north, so we may have to watch in this area, look closer, and then especially this leading that's now into Indiana. Out of our area, not our problem, thankfully, but still right on the line here. Some of this northern part of Iroquois County, I think Watseka, you've got Donovan, Sheldon, you've got Martinton up here. Those rural parts as well, likely getting some 60 to maybe 70 mile per hour wind gust up there. That threat a little bit lower to the south and to the west. Okay, I'm going to switch to the radar. Again, we like to look at as many different views as possible here. This is going to be the velocity product from the, that'll be from Lincoln. And nothing really sticks out to me at this point from that. I'll take a look here at my, look at my attributes and see if we can see any shear in there. Again, the shear, it'll take a minute for it to load. Sometimes that can, excuse me, I don't think I've ever sneezed while being on TV here. Must be all the humidity and the pollen out there. It looks like we're not picking up on a whole lot here, but still it's something that we'll watch as I pop the storm tracks back up here. You don't see a whole lot at this point either that really sticks out to me. What about hail? I do want to look and see if there's any hail showing up. And it may take a minute. There's maybe a little bit of small hail on the northwest side of the storm there, northwest of Gibson City. But you look at colors like that, those grays, that's usually pea-sized hail, and that's it. And I don't see any else in the Iroquois County with anything quite like that either. I will say this, the rainfall rates are likely, pretty prolific out there, and looks like that's not quite working for me. That's okay. We're trying some new things here, trying our touchscreen method a little bit more, and getting a view on that to see how things look. There's that that tail end of the storms here. Again, Gibson City right now looks like it's going to be over Sibley. Some heavy rain, some thunder, lightning, maybe a little small hail in that area, and then some gusty winds continuing to the north and east. That'll be past Chatsworth now. All clear Chatsworth. The far southeastern part of Livingston County, Piper City to Roberts, and then more of that wind and rain coming into the Watseka area. I'm particularly interested in Watseka right now at this point, and the reason for that is, that's not quite working. That's okay. When I look here, you'll see this almost bowing segment sticking out there. That's something that really think we'll keep an eye and watch here for the next little bit. But the worst of the storms, thank goodness, they got 80 mile an hour winds just to the north of our area. And so that's something we'll keep an eye on here for the next little bit. This is it so far. In fact, I'm gonna take a view down further to the south. I saw at one point we did have down in Effingham, down that way, there was a we'll do this here. We'll zoom it out. There was some storms further to the south and to the west, but it doesn't look like there's anything popping up here at this point. Things are looking pretty quiet here across a good chunk of central Illinois. Springfield, Decatur, Champaign, Mattoon, Charleston, Effingham. These storms move off to the east. And this is almost affecting the timing of our storms later on that we had thought this afternoon into tonight. There still will be some development here from Peoria along the Illinois River. How far south it makes it, it may delay storms, and the later we go, the less instability there is to work with. And so that may help us a little bit with the severe threat, but still, we're thinking here about Iroquois, Ford counties, with some of that strong winds that are sneaking on in, and something that we're going to continue to closely watch and closely monitor here in central Illinois. I'm going to pop back up our sky cam up in Gibson City, our camera up there. We'll take a vantage point of it, take a peek and see what it looks like out there. And you'll see here that certainly looks a little bit stormy out there. Nothing too significant or scary looking, but still it's worth keeping a close eye on here as we watch these storms move to the south and to the east, and that will be, I think, what we have to monitor for a little while longer. Okay, let's check here. Looks like National Weather Service, they're talking a lot about the 80-mile-per-hour winds that have swept through parts of Kankakee County and off to the east. And so that's something that we'll continue to watch and continue to monitor here for a little while longer. 2 p.m. right now. I'm meteorologist Jacob Dickey. We are going to hit the reset button here and take a peek at things. And as I do that, then, what I'd like to do is I'm going to wrap up our coverage here for a little bit, take a break, and kind of watch things. First, I would like to just check and see if there's any reports. Not seeing any reports from Iroquois County, but if you do have one, let us know here. These storms moving into Watseka in particular, that does have my eye at this point with these storms with 60 to perhaps some 70-mile-per-hour gusts in northern part of Iroquois County. We'll bring up the storm tracker Doppler one last time here as we watch from that Gibson City camera. This is about where we'll keep an eye on it for now. And I'll throw the velocity in one last time here. There's some wind certainly here up US 52 in Iroquois County. There they are trimming back that warning. Watseka northward has the strongest winds, and maybe even in the Watseka area, there may be some strong winds there as well coming on. There's US 24 and Illinois Route 1 south. There's Illinois Route 1 north. Watseka sits in the middle of that there. So there may be some strong winds there too. If anyone in Watseka area has any reports, we would appreciate that to keep an eye on things there as well. Further to the south and west, it looks like the leading edge, this red line right here, that's the outflow boundary. The rain-cooled air pushing out ahead of the storms now is coming across Route 9 into southern Ford County. And so we will watch that progress further to the south and east. We'll continue to watch also to see if there's any storms that continue to fire up here further down the line. We're not quite sure how that's going to play out today, but this could be good news for us, at least to lessen our severe threat. But we know that there's been at least some wind damage, especially closer you get to Kankakee County, where they've had a lot of trees down, a lot of significant wind damage from what we're hearing up there. It is about 2 o'clock now. I'm going to end our coverage here on digital platforms, and if needed, we'll jump back on. We're going to keep watching behind the scenes for Iroquois and Ford County. If you've got the WCIA3 weather app, there's any new alerts, a new watch, new warning for your area, you'll get notified of that immediately, and we'll keep you updated as needed here across the region. I'm meteorologist Jacob Dickey. Thanks for being with us. We will catch you later at some point, and we'll see how things progress, but stay weather aware to the afternoon.